Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I am broadcasting live from beautiful Cape May County, New Jersey this afternoon. I am very happy, very happy to have with me as a guest today, John Fuller. And if his name sounds familiar, I've had him on the show before. And I want to say hi to everybody who's joining me on Facebook. Howdy. I'm trying a new camera angle today, so let me know what you guys think about that. I think it might be a little easier for me to navigate. But I have John Fuller. He's been on the show before. I talked to him about something completely different, I believe, the last time I had him on the show, and you'll understand why in 1 second. It was around the time that Donald Trump was elected. And, of course, there's always been a lot of racial tension around his election. And I was talking to him about that. And the reason why he is particularly well-suited for this discussion, and I'll tell you what the discussion is in a moment, is because he is the Chief Engagement Educator and Race Relations Facilitator at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. That's what he does. And today, we're going to talk to him about the politics in the NFL and the cost of taking a knee. So I'm going to uncharacteristically be discussing sports today. Way out of my wheelhouse. So, far off the beaten. But you know, there are thank you to everybody in the chat. I'm not ignoring you. Hi, Ron Edwards, Ricky. I saw a like from Al Ashworth. Thank you for being here. So he's, you know, with him working for the Department of Veterans Affairs and also being the Chief Engagement Educator and Race Relations Facilitator, I am imagining that he's been a bit busy here lately with the NFL taking a knee. And of course, with some in the NFL taking a knee. And of course, there have been some financial implications. Hey, Damien. Some financial implications of them doing so, which we're going to talk about as well. In the meantime, before we get to that, a bit of housekeeping. I want to thank my sponsors, David Barnett of BusinessBuyerAdvantage.com. If you have ever, hi Tim Hamill, nice to see you. If you've ever thought about buying a franchise, you see commercials or you hear commercials on the radio all the time, and sometimes you see them talking about buying a franchise. If you've ever thought of it, you want to go to BusinessBuyerAdvantage.com first and check out David Barnett's many free YouTube instructional videos. And he also, Marcus Douglas is here. Hey, Keith Jackson, my cousin, is here. Hello. You want to go to BusinessBuyerAdvantage.com and check out his videos. And you also want to check out his books. He has 2 books, 21 Stupid Things People Do When Trying to Buy a Business, and also another book called Franchise Warning. So you want to check both of those out if you consider buying a franchise. Gina, how are you, darling? Good to see you in the Facey chat. Also want to thank Eva Rosenberg, the one and only Tax Mama. If you haven't been to her website yet, please do go. It's taxmama.com with 1 M. She answers your tax questions for free, and she has 2 award-winning books. Small Business Taxes Made Easy and Deduct Everything. And Sackhead Sean is here. The boss man is in the chat on Facey. Anyhow, I just got distracted for a second. What I was about to say is tax reform is big and in the news right now. And so you're especially going to want to pay attention to the information on Tax Mama's website. She knows, she is a guru in all things taxes, and she was my guest for my 100th episode. So if you haven't checked that out, head on over to Spreaker or even just Google it, and you'll find the 100th episode where she filled us in. Wow, the whole SHR family is watching. I'm so excited. Anyhow, I see BZ in the house. All right. So what else are we talking about? Okay, so wait. More housekeeping. I'm sorry. if you want to find out in advance who is going to be on the show, you can do so a couple of ways. Following me on my Facebook page at Money Talk with Melanie is the handle, or following me on Twitter at Money Talk Mel. If you want some enthralling political debate and you want to do some tweeting about politics and really go at it, you can follow me on my personal Twitter feed, which is njgop.com. Sherry Ford, hey, good to see you. You can follow me on at njgopdiva.com. If you would like the hurricane victims, even though the hurricanes seem to have settled down for a moment, the hurricane victims are still suffering. So, of course, first and foremost, we want to cover them in prayer, because that is the most important thing that is going to encourage them and keep them and strengthen them as they are going through everything that they're going through. That is number one. As far as an earthly help for these folks, if you want to donate to a reputable organization and where the money is going to get where it's supposed to go, do consider 8daysofhope.com. They're a non-denominational Christian organization, and the money will get to where it is supposed to go. And that's 8 Days of Hope with 8 spelled out. So you can definitely go there and donate your money. It will get to where it needs to go. In the Money Talk News Report, you know what? There's so much good stuff in the news, and I'll always have to debate, like, do I talk about what's important or what's fun? So I'm going to pick, like, one important thing and then, like, some fun stuff. And by fun stuff, I mean, like, nerdy, nerdy stuff that I think is fun. Nerdy computer, business-related stuff. Okay, so in serious stuff, President Trump has outlined his tax plan again. And, we've heard about his tax plan over and over again. I'm ready to see some meat. I don't know about you all, but I'm ready to see, like, some legislation. I'm ready to see, bill number so-and-so and so-and-so with some numbers and whatnot on it. Like, I mean, we've been seeing the outline for a minute now. But the corporate tax rate's supposed to go from, it was 35 to 15. I noticed it has inched up to 20. My guess is we're probably going to, it's a negotiating tactic. We're going to end up with a corporate tax rate of somewhere around, 15. That's just a prediction. They want to change the individual tax brackets from 7 to 3. We'll probably end up with 4, 5. We're not going to get it all. But those are just a couple of the broad things that are supposed to be happening with tax reform. They seem to think that it's going to get done, but forgive me for being a cynic about my own party, but we heard that before. Just saying, we've heard that before. Now, as far as fun stuff, meaning stuff that's not all that important, it's like your hashtag first world problems, right? Apparently, there's some what do you call it? Manufacturing problems with the iPhone 10 already. So I'm trying not to have a heart attack. I'm trying to chill. China's, Ron Edwards is talking about the tax rate on Facebook, the corporate tax rate, and he said 15% would be ideal. By the way, that's China's corporate tax rate. Ours is the highest in the world at 35. China's is 15. So, if we want to compete, a nice idea would be to use, some place like China as a barometer. Just saying. But the iPhone 10 is having manufacturing issues. Now, when I first read that report, I thought, okay, like really bummed out. Oh my gosh, this is according to Wall Street Journal. But in the report, which I should have picked this up immediately, it said it's going to could limit supply. Now, as a money girl, when you hear the words limit supply, you know what I hear? The price is going to go up. That phone's going to get sold on the black market. It already costs $1,000. It's going to cost $1 million by the time they're done. They're going to, it's the old supply and demand. So if the supply goes down, the demand's going to go up, and that phone's going to cost a whole lot of money. Okay, I'm over time against my break, but I have to say this anyway. Amazon's coming out with a second generation home assistant, aka Alexa. Which, if they came out with the Alex with full functionality, if you know what I'm saying, I swear to you, I'd marry it. And on that note, we're gonna go into our first break. When we come back, we are going to talk to John Fuller about all of this NFL taking a knee foolishness. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette. We'll be back in a few moments.
If the monument bashers and other leftists trying to eliminate evil memories from society, I find it ironic that they themselves are creating evil nightmares of oppression and bigotry. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, on one hand, the monument bashers say that they are eliminating images of slavery that irritate them so much. Even leftist Nancy Pelosi suddenly gets the heebie-jeebies when she walks past the same Confederate monuments in the Capitol that she has strolled past for 30 years without so much as a slight notice of their existence. Speaking of slavery, have you noticed how neither the monument bashers or other leftists hardly ever mention the disdain of the current slave trade in the Middle East, where black Christians are held in bondage by brutish Islamists who view black people as nothing more than slaves who God created without souls? The truth is, monument bashers and other leftists really are not concerned about monuments or dead slaveholders or Confederate flags. They are actually focused on George Soros' mission to destroy American history and disrupt the successful function of our constitutionally limited republic, which stands as the last natural hope against his globalist ambitions. I'm Ron Edwards.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Who likes paying taxes? Nobody. That's why Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com wants you to pay less of them. Read Small Business Taxes Made Easy and learn how to set up a business plan that minimizes taxes. The tax benefits of different forms of financing, spot and fix errors in the 1099s, legally increase your deductible expenses with better record-keeping techniques. Don't let the IRS squeeze you out of every penny. Start deducting today. Visit TaxMama.com. TaxMama.com. That's TaxMama with one M.com.
My name is David Barnett, and I've been helping people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses since 2008. So far this year, I've gone on 5 vacations. It's because I've got my own business. When you get tired of being managed by someone else and you decide that business ownership is right for you without the risk of starting your own unproven enterprise, then come over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. There are over 100 YouTube videos on buying and selling businesses that you can watch for free. That's businessbuyeradvantage.com.
Okay, we are back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette, and I'm about to introduce to you my guest. I want to give a couple more shout outs in the Facey chat because my cousin Lisa is listening. I think this may be her first time here, so I definitely want to give her a shout out. And to those of you who said I am drinking from an Obama mug. This is not an Obama mug, for the record. This is a mug, and the letters look backwards, but the mug has a cookie on it with an Obamacare logo, and it says, "Tastes like socialism." For the record, that's what it says. Because I know it's backward and you can't see it, but it's a cookie that says, "Tastes like socialism." Obviously, you would have coffee in here, and this is iced coffee. And because I'm a wiseacre at times, that's how I roll. Anywho, without further ado, Mr. John Fuller, how are you, sir?
Doing just fine, Melanie.
Thank you so much for indulging me. I appreciate you listening to me bloviate during the open. For our listeners, please do give them a bit of your background and tell the audience what it is. You know, our government is so big, right? But what you do is very important. So please do give them a bit of your background and tell them what a chief engagement educator and race relations facilitator at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs does.
Well, I'm a 26-year Marine and Army veteran going back to the Vietnam War era. And after that, my last tour of duty, I worked for the Department of Defense Equal Opportunity Institute as an instructor for 4 years, and then went into the federal government for a couple of years, and then went up to Johns Hopkins Hospital and was their director of diversity and EEO for 5 years. I went to the VA 8 years ago and have taught cultural competency to engage employees to really have these type of conversations. I created the race relations dialogue, the only person in the federal government that would stand up and do this, because everybody, you may think that you have diversity classes, but you never talk about the issues in those. So I said that was enough. I was in St. Louis, and I asked the attendees there at another session that I was giving, how many people would attend if I could go back and convince the VA to have a actual race relations dialogue. And this was just right after Ferguson had occurred. Every single hand, it was about 800 people that had went through the classes, and every class that I went to, everyone said that they would do it. So I went back to the central office in Washington, D.C., and I said, well, we really need to do this for our VA employees because, this, that, or the other. And they first said, well, what are you going to do if people start screaming and yelling and all this? And I said, they're not going to do that because we have excellent employees in the VA, and I'll take responsibility for it. So the secretary said that that was fine. My very first one was a year after Michael Brown was shot, and it was the same day an employee's nephew was shot there in Ferguson during a protest that was going on, also with Black Lives Matter. I was blocking the highways there. So that conversation was going on. I had 7 people from Ferguson that was in the very first World Cafe, which I entitled it Gateway to Race Relations. And they said all were African Americans. That was the first time, even though they knew people at that facility, that they'd ever sat down and talked with individuals of different races about race relations. So I carried it from there. A year and a half ago, I've held 60 sessions nationwide, from Portland, Oregon, Seattle to Boston, and just finished several sessions in Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Detroit, and Chillicothe, Ohio, of all places. So it works. It's people getting together and actually talking about and dialoguing about the issues in an open environment and with respect. And if anyone out there who is listening would participate in this, you would just see the magic that is involved with people actually talking about issues and learning from each other and listening to learn versus trying to debate and be divisive in your comments.
Exactly.
That's basically who I am. I got a doctorate degree and all that, but that's a long time ago. I studied a whole lot.
It's still good.
I'm just a country boy from Indiana that made it kind of big in the family. So, but it took. I think also I would also like to say for those that listened before, I'm a white male and a baby boomer of all things. So I'm using that as an advantage for me in the field because I'm getting people, particularly white males, to come to these sessions that never would before. Because when I used to do cultural competency sessions, the first 5 minutes of any presentation, I saw people with their arms crossed. They just had to be there to check the block.
Right.
But then they started to listen because they saw somebody that was, I have a conservative background, and I come across that way. Although I recognize and appreciate and respect people of all different backgrounds, and I may disagree with it, but I'm not going to hurl insults at them because of what we see today.
Indeed,
So,
indeed.
Yeah.
And so the reason why people might be thinking, why is she talking about this on a money show? Well, I'll explain to you why. If you look at the ratings of the NFL as a result of these protests, they've gone down significantly. As a matter of fact, one source that I ran into reported that it's gone down double digits this season so far. So with similar tackle for loss, whatever, I'm sure that's a similar football statistic as last year. And apparently this past Sunday's game was worse. So and the worst in like 11 years, the ratings. So, these protests are definitely affecting the ratings. And to connect the dots for you, if the ratings are affected, that's less eyeballs on the television. That means that advertisers are not going to be willing to pay as much. That means that the NFL and everyone else, for that matter, who's connected to making money off of the NFL, are losing money. And by the way, if they lose money, people lose jobs. Like, this is, stuff rolls downhill. All of this stuff is connected. So if this continues in an organization as big as the NFL, there are some pretty heavy financial implications. And that's the part that I'm highlighting. And I'm sure that people are thinking about it, but probably not to the extent that I just broke that down as to, how far reaching the financial impact can be. You think about the people who are selling concessions, the franchises who have concessions in the stadiums. Any and everyone who's connected with the NFL is losing money. So it's a real problem. And, I was discussing with John before we went on air. I said, my issue is, like, I don't understand what the end game is. Is the end game 40? And I can't think that the end game is for them to lose money at their own job. That does not make any sense. John, what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't think so either, and it seems to be expanding on the actual reasons of why they're protesting. First, Colin Kaepernick was saying it was because of police relations, and now it's just grown into so many other subsets of subjects. And one thing I'd like to add to your comments that you just did there, Melanie, is that a nationwide survey that was just conducted on African Americans, 84% said that they feel the country is on a wrong track. They feel worried about President Trump and his policies. Well, these are the same people that are coming to all of our facilities. I mean, we have 360,000 employees in the VA, so that dynamic is already in play. And the one out this morning with the Washington Post and the University of Chicago said that 59% of black men feel like it's a bad time to be a black person in America. Well, a lot of that is driven by the media. There's some of it that's driven by actual circumstances. But if you have that type of statistic, there is no way that does not affect business. No way that doesn't, in fact, apply to any type of employment. And within the federal government, for instance, because you have such a split of opinion on this, that it's a bad time to be, that's 84% here. You have most of the heads of all of these agencies that are appointed by President Trump. So that dynamic is there. It is real. I'm getting calls every single day to have these dialogues in facilities where they just feel the stress is overwhelming. And we're the ones that take care in the VA of patients. And it was discussed last week about how it is affecting patient care. Because people may come in, the veterans may come in with a Make America Great hat, or somebody with a Black Lives Matter, whatever that may be, it is already causing that bias to affect the care of our veterans right now.
And see, now
if it's doing that, it would do it in any other hospital as well. So, in any other business. So it does affect the bottom line. And if the players want to, this is my opinion, and I model that behavior in class, if they want to protest, please go to Chicago and other places that have enormous types of issues that are caused within the inner cities, but nothing is being done about it. If you want to do that on your own time, but as far as coming to a football game and disrespecting the flag, and then all the people that have fought and protected you, and they say it's free speech, but free speech does have some limitations, and even the NFL says that they can't do something that's going to dishonor the league.
Right.
So at what point are they going to say that, you know what, they won't even let them wear certain sneakers out there? As far as 9/11, they told people to take off the 9/11 memorial shoes. They did this type of thing, yet they'll have people kneel down on a turf in support of what? These are millionaires. These are people that where has been the injustice there?
It's incredible.
So those are the questions.
I agree with you. It's incredible. And you know, that's what really, frankly, you know, particularly as a brown person myself, I find particularly infuriating, frankly. You know, when we have, you know, the majority of murders committed by other brown people on brown people, and that's inherent in all races. We know that statistic that you know, in all races, you know, you're mostly killed by your own race. That's not my problem. My problem is that in those neighborhoods inherent to our community, we have a culture of, you know, not snitching. So therefore, we're perpetuating, we're letting the criminals get away with it. You know, for example, and I was talking to you about this before you went on air. You know, around the same time that Michael Brown was shot, not a few weeks after Michael Brown was shot by that cop, and there were no charges ultimately filed against that cop, not even civil rights violations filed against him. A 9-year-old girl was shot dead during her homework. Gunfire, got caught in the crossfire. She's on her bed for some drug dealers in her neighborhood. Where was her march? Where's her knee that somebody took for her? She probably had something going for her. She probably had a future that didn't involve police interaction. Where's her protest? And her name.
What people see.
Exactly.
Right? That's what people see.
Nobody knows her name, but everybody knows Michael Brown's name. You know, and by the way, her name, I want to make sure that I grab her name real quick. Her name was Jamila, I believe. Thank you. Jamila Bolden was her name. Her name was Jamila Bolden. She's 9 years old, laying on the bed doing her homework, and these drug dealers are outside shooting like it's the OK Corral and takes her out and injures her 34-year-old mother. Where's the protest for that? Football players. And you're crying about police brutality? Give me a break. So, you know, it's just it's highly hypocritical. My tears are not for the Michael Browns of the world. They're for the Jamila Boldens of the world. The kids who probably thought, you know, had dreams of doing something and was sitting there doing her homework so that it could actually happen. Not the Michael Browns who were out committing robberies and got caught up in some stuff and ended up getting killed. I'm sorry. And you're protesting over that, but you're not protesting for Jamila. I have a big problem with that. It's just, I don't understand the thinking. I don't get it. Do any of these types of discussions come out in your groups?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you all meet?
My dialogue session number 2, I have 3 sessions within a session itself, and people discuss a particular question that I developed for them. And my second question is how 24/7 media increases racial tension and polarization, and also contributes to trust issues in the workplace. I'm asking the tables to dialogue about that, and yes, that it always comes up. I mean, you do have things like police relations and driving while black or what have you. Those things are real, but they also can be perceived. And when people don't realize that it's not just one way or the other, my daughter's a police officer, and she's been one for 22 years in San Francisco. And there are so many, I mean, who are you going to call when somebody attacks you? Who are you going to do if your children are being assaulted? I mean, you're going to call the police. It's not, the trust is there when you actually have to have it. But when something happens, then it's, you know, explain that. And you would be amazed at how many African Americans believe with, you know, most, I think, of America believes that they can trust the police. It's just the perceptions and the media, 24/7 looping coverage of certain events, like you said, you know, the Ferguson event, the Baltimore Freddie Grace, that, you know, all of the other cities. Those are isolated events, and if you look at that its entirety, those things didn't happen because of just that one thing that happened in these
Right.
cities. It happened because there was a lot of underlying type of issues amongst the community themselves. For one, the people in Ferguson said, well, there were a lot of really unfair practices that were going on, and people were listening to that from all sides. And some of the good things that came out of it was people got together and dialogued and saw how they were able to change some of this, and it's still not changed its entirety. But these things are what you do within a dialogue, not just hurling things, not kneeling on a football field and saying, yay, rah, I did something for race relations. Well, you're not doing anything except to continue the division.
Exactly. And I guess that's kind of my point, is like, okay, what are, I'm an action kind of chick. So I guess, my point is, okay, you kneeled, but what did you do? And I feel like really what the point is, I feel insulted and hurt, so I'm going to insult and hurt you. And that is less than helpful, and it's not productive. I mean, you're not getting anything done by doing that. What you're really doing is just you're perpetuating the hurt. You're perpetuating the pain. You're inflaming. You're just making more people mad, which I kind of feel like was the point. Because what did you think people's reaction was going to be? Did you think that America was going to go, oh my God, I didn't realize that it sucked to be black in America, but now that you've kneeled during the anthem, I've realized the error of my ways and I'm going to be much better? Like, is that what you thought the end game was going to be? Or did you really just want to piss off a bunch of white people? I mean, let's be frank.
and within white people and white males and everybody talks after the sessions too, and they do say that, because a lot of the things that from media and from what's going on in football, we discussed that last week, that are happening do create the division. They're not doing anything. It's almost like giving, and I know people do this, and I've done it myself. You give $1 to a homeless person, and you said that you've done something to stop homelessness.
Right.
I mean, it's the same type of thing. It's like you feel good about it, you walk away, and you just gave away $1, which means really nothing to you. But it might have meant something to that person. So now, oh yeah, I just helped the homeless person. Okay, so you're feeling good about kneeling down, even though you're making multi-million dollars to play a game. And people go to games to have a fantasy. Growing up as a young kid, I always thought I was going to lead the Chicago Bears to some championship or whatever. So you go to a game, you wear the shirt, you do all the financial things, $60 for parking and all this stuff. You're not there to watch somebody do a political protest.
Exactly.
If you want to do a political protest, go somewhere else, but not during my 3 hours that I'm sitting here trying to watch a football game.
Exactly. You're exactly right. And you bring about a good point. We're up against the break in about 2 minutes. But when we get on the other side of that break, I want to talk about the fact that they make as much money as they make. And, what comes to mind to me is, again, like if you really wanted to do something, if your point was really to change things, you have all this money and access, by the way, at your disposal. You can call up any reporter, media person at your disposal and probably get an hour of earned media time. Wouldn't even have to pay for it, just because of who you are, and explain what your grievances are. You know what I'm saying? But that's not what you chose to do. You have all this money. You could do a commercial spot. You could start an organization. If you don't know how to start an organization, you have enough money and access to people who do. It's a phone call away for you. When you have money and fame, you have power. If you really, really legitimately wanted to do something, you have the means. So I have to conclude that you really didn't want to do something. Again, I get back to you probably just wanted to tick off a bunch of white folks. And mission accomplished, by the way.
Yeah. With a lot of people, I'm sure that it did. I mean, I just that people watch this and they say, "Are you kidding me?" That's what a lot of the reactions are. Are you kidding me? It was so refreshing going to Chillicothe, Ohio, at the very first session, they had these alarms going off, and I thought it was a patient emergency or something, but actually it was for standing for the national anthem. And you had nearly 200 people stand up, snap to, all races, all backgrounds, and they put their hand on their heart and sang the national anthem. That was enlightening. And because they feel the patriotism, love of the country, know we have some problems, but yeah, let's work on it together and not try to divide people and just say, well, you know, we're the ones suffering. They have no idea what other people live through in their lives.
Absolutely.
Talk about it.
Absolutely. We're up against a break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette. And we have John Fuller with us this afternoon, who is giving us some great insights on diversity. He works for the United States. Come on, let me get this right. He works for the Department of Veterans Affairs as a chief engagement educator and race relations facilitator. So he is very well equipped to have this discussion that we're having today about the money, the NFL, the taking a knee, and all of these things. So on the other side of the break, we're gonna talk about the pay, and I do actually want to talk a little bit about the taxpayer money that goes into these stadiums and the implications of that as well, because I don't think a lot of people are aware of that aspect of the finances. So I'd like to touch on that as well. Again, you're listening to Money Talk with Melanie, and we will be back in one moment.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch River Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe right here on sjrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Welcome to this week's 5 Minutes of Personal Finance. This week we talk about employment and career scams. Yes, people are out there scamming people who are looking for jobs, which really, really stinks. So we're going to talk about a few, what they look like, how to recognize them. For example, career consulting scams. Here's what it looks like. A career consultant will email you and say they're super duper impressed with your resume and they'd like to represent you. And really what they're doing is they're trying to pitch their product or service and trying to get money out of your pocket. There are several recruiting scams. Recruiters will contact you. They'll say that they have clients with positions that you could be qualified for, and usually this is just another attempt to sell you something rather than recruit you for an actual job. Always, another one you have to be aware of are phishing scams. Any attempt to get personal information via email is always an opportunity, and this is not just job and career scams. You have to be careful about phishing. If you can't apply directly to that job, then be very aware that it's probably an attempt to get your personal information, your personal contact information for some type of identity theft. Another big one is shipping scams. These are work-at-home opportunities where they will actually tell you that they will ship you office equipment and things like that, and all you have to do is front the money up front. They will pay you back with a fake check that will clear at first and then eventually be returned, and you'll be left holding a bag. It's a really bad situation. There are also unemployment scams. These are people, criminals, who will offer to help you with to file unemployment insurance for a fee, which you don't have to pay a fee to file unemployment. There's no benefit to doing that. You can do so through your home state with no problem. In fact, it's against the law. So contact your state unemployment office if ever you want to file unemployment. Another one is called a bait and switch scam. This is a scam in which you apply for a job and they pick you for an interview. Lucky you. But during the interview, you discover that the job that you applied for actually doesn't exist. And they want you for something completely different. This is a job that nobody wants. Absolutely nobody wants. But they're going to try to convince you to take the job. Another big one is direct deposit scams. Never, ever, ever, here's the deal, give out your banking information in order to get a job over the internet. Now, one would think this would be common sense, but these people can be very, very convincing. Rule of thumb, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So that is this week's 5 Minutes of Personal Finance. Be very careful. Look out for employment and career scams. These people mean you no good. Remember, all of this is very important because it is your money.
Hello, I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. This is your business diva, Melanie Collette. And I have with me this afternoon Chief Engagement Educator and Race Relations Facilitator at the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, John Fuller, with me. I'm so happy to have you with me this afternoon. We're talking about politics in the NFL and the costs of taking a knee. One other cost that I don't think that even these NFL players thought about is that the public at large, I don't think, is aware that the stadiums that these players play in are often subsidized by taxpayer dollars. I'm sure that you were aware of that. Do you think that the players are aware of this?
They may be or they may not be. I know the antitrust and all those laws in the past, I mean, they do give them a lot of tax breaks. So I don't think that a player really cares as long as they get a $35 million signing bonus and move on from there. So, I mean, if you're a great player, you can command a lot of money. So however they're getting it, I don't think is a major concern as far as where it comes from.
Exactly. And I think my point is that from a business standpoint, I don't think many of these players completely think about the conflicts and implications of what they're doing. Like, they're protesting, but I'm not sure that you thought the whole thing through, I guess is my point. Or even completely understand the far-reaching effects of what you're doing. Because I think if they did understand the far-reaching financial implications, that they probably would think twice about doing it the way that they're doing it. I
think if you have a business that's going downhill to begin with, fewer viewers, you could see they did some scans of the attendance at a lot of the NFL games this past weekend. There were a lot of empty seats that you wouldn't normally see in cities that don't even have good teams. Typically, will put a lot of people in the stands. So it does have the implications. I mean, they do get cuts from concessions and jerseys and all of this. And one of the big things I think that, has changed throughout the time of earlier years of football was when kids used to look up to athletes, and they probably still do it in a large extent, but as role models. And if the role model is going to disrespect the flag, and that person's wearing that person's jersey, what is it? What is the implications on the younger people that are watching this? I mean, I think that is another implication that's going to affect people's psyche, and maybe, that's maybe not what they want. Maybe it is. I don't know if our country's changed that much, but there are a lot of people that do disrespect patriotism and conservatism and the flag and all of that. It's almost like if you wear something that says, America on your shoulder, or if you yell something USA in a stadium, you're somehow racist for some reason. I don't quite get that point.
Right, you're a nationalist.
Right.
You're a white nationalist, white supremacist.
That's the thing. It's it's like President Trump said. He goes, when he was at the United Nations, he said every country thinks about themselves first.
We should.
I mean, why would you think about yourself second or in last place or something? I mean, the argument there is pretty weak.
Well, I agree. And, we just finished 8 years with a president who really tried to make us believe that it was a terrible thing to put America first. And now you have all these people that feel that because President Trump is saying, I'm going to put America first, that this is a racist thing. I had a friend tell me the other day on social media that what do you think America first means? He wants to turn us both into slaves and you don't realize it. And I'm like, are you for real?
Right.
I'm like, are you like, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, you would think that the slave ships would be waiting along the coast. I live in Cape May. I have the Coast Guard right here. You would think that the Coast Guard would have been rounding us up by now and putting us back on the boat. Like on January 20th. Like what?
That's how he was portrayed. I mean, when you look at in the year 2011, the third year of Obama's presidency, 71% of Black Americans said it was a good time to be a Black woman. But now, only 17% say that it's okay. It's not a good time. So how does that change in that span of time because of election of another person who's not sitting there and saying what you just said? Look, he's the first one to have all of the Black colleges and university presidents come to the White House and meet with him. President Obama didn't do that in all of his years.
He did.
I mean, he's reaching out. He's went to Black.
You okay?
Went to Black churches and taken the stuff even from the media on that. Well, he's just doing it because of this. How many times have we heard that? He's just doing it to do, whatever.
Well, that's the thing about my well-melanated folks. You can't make us happy. You can't make them happy. If he goes to the Black church, then he's pandering. If he doesn't go, then he's ignoring you. So and I posted on Facebook one time and I said, listen, this was during the election cycle. I said, especially you Christians, I want to hear from you. Tell me what exactly it is that Donald Trump could do to make you happy. And I said, and be honest about it. Like, be a man or a woman about it. And if the answer is nothing, then just say so. Like, man up and woman up and just say so. Just say that you're unforgiving, that you're an unforgiving person, that you think you're better than Jesus, and that you're unforgiving, and that there's nothing that this man can do to repent in your mind. That he's always going to be a racist, and that's that. Final, end of story. If that's the answer, then be man or woman enough to say it. I got crickets on that question, and I have a pretty active Facebook page. But nobody would answer that question. I said, you guys are always bashing him. Tell me what you want. Was basically my question. Black folks, what do you want? He goes to the church, you bash him. He doesn't go to the church, you bash him. What can the man do? And
I know. And I don't know if you're familiar with Diversity Inc. They give out the top diversity awards to Fortune 500 companies, which everybody wants to have, by the way, but I don't know why. Luke Visconti is the president of that. And I comment on his newsletter that they send out every day. And they're always bashing. He's bashing, he's calling them every name in the book and things. I said, well, how is that something that is really helping inclusion or diversity when you are, not acting with integrity?
Exactly.
And disagree, yes, but people like Eugene Robinson from the Washington Post just wrote today, Trump's race baiting isn't a gambit. This is who he is. Now, how does this help anyone? And this person, he's a regular columnist for the Washington Post. But that's the title of his thing. And I've written to Eugene many times. And he said, well, he deserves it. And as you said, even the forgiving, forgive somebody 7 times 7 times in the Bible if you're a Christian, but all religions have that.
Yes.
So that means to me that nobody follows any religion in this country if they're going to be doing that. And I know these people are religious, and they still will do it. But they say, well, it's my responsibility to call out a person. I said, yes, call them out. But if you're going to have vile names thrown at somebody and fill your column with it,
exactly,
and lead with it, how is that doing anything but still dividing?
And presenting it as news, like this is the thing that really ticks me off, is that they present it as news, and that's a problem. That's a huge problem. I do Sirius XM. I've been doing it like an average of once a week. Actually, by the way, peeps, I'm back there tomorrow night on Sirius XM Patriot Channel 125, 9 p.m. to midnight tomorrow night. But of course, we're watching all of the news shows. And one of the nights that I was doing the show, President Trump had just given a speech. And the report from the speech, and people had been calling in talking about the speech, who had heard the speech. I didn't hear the whole thing because I was on the air. But the report, the headline was, President Trump gives hateful, divisive speech. And I was like, excuse me, that is not a news headline. What? And this is what they've been doing since the man ran for president. It's ridiculous.
I know. It's the same thing. It's like Eugene also said, I just wanted to quote this. We also have a president who, if he's not a white supremacist, does a convincing impression of one. Now, it's just something how people will do that, and that's why I wrote in the book that I wrote last year, America's Diversity Meltdown. And the reason why I wrote that was because I've been a diversity professional both in the military and outside for nearly 30 years now. And I said it's melting down because we had diversity education that it failed race relations.
Yes.
And I said that we need dialogue. We need to have people sitting down at the table looking at each other face to face, not doing these things on the outside and kneeling on the ground and all of this. That doesn't mean a hill of beans, and all it's going to do is keep us divided by identity politics.
Absolutely.
All the time. I mean, that's all we see right now. And it's very disturbing. It seems like I've worked 30 years to
right.
grow worse.
And listen, we have to go. We have to close the show. But before we go, and I knew I should have mentioned this during the open, you have a blog called ChangeDiversity.com. That's ChallengingDiversity.com. Tell my listeners about the blog real quick and where they can find it.
Well, you can find it on ChallengingDiversity.com, and also I have a Facebook page, which Facebook.com/America's Diversity, which gives a lot of my writings as well, and about the book particularly. But I know you read that, Melanie, and we've had good discussions together on the last time and this one. And I think we need to continue doing this and having people hear us even have a dialogue with each other. I can work and I can talk with anybody of different backgrounds, and whether they're liberal or whatever, but there are some people like Antifa and the other ones, they don't represent anybody but themselves.
No.
So
no.
It's amazing. I said to one of the VA leaders, I said, well, if you're going to write about KKK, then the person needs to write about Antifa. And I was asked, who's Antifa?
Wow.
This was right after Charlottesville. I said, are you kidding me? That's after Trump said, there's good and bad people on both sides, which there was. But when I said Antifa, who's that?
Wow, that is
people that
stunning.
were marching there were just liberals peacefully.
That is stunning. Okay, actually, I'm gonna get cut off if I don't close the show. Thank you so much for being here, John. Loved your commentary and your insights. It was everything that I hoped it would be. Thank you so much. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I want to thank everyone for listening. Everybody in the Facey chat. Remember, all of this is very important because it is your money.